Hello, and welcome all new listeners who recently subscribed. This is a short solo podcast where I rant about various startup things while also trying to provide help for early stage startups and founders. I release new episodes roughly every week. Of course, once I announced this podcast, I immediately started traveling around the world. I got super jet lagged and then I got sick. So I'm recording this from the road without a proper mic and with a bit of a stuffy nose. Apologies if the quality is not so great on this one. But as they say, the show must go on, and this topic is relevant to my jet lag and sleep deprived brain because the topic is dreams, or more specifically, building one's dreams. Let's jump right in. Perhaps it is safe to say that investors ask a lot of silly questions during a pitch meeting, but there was one investor question that always struck me as being more profound than the rest. The question was, why do you want to do this for the next 10 years of your life? I am hopefully remembering and attributing this question correctly to Hunter Walk, a Silicon Valley investor and former executive at YouTube. I really love this question, so let's break down what does it actually mean for founders as you maybe ponder your own answer. To start, it's a really good question because it can smack a founder right in the face with the reality of just how long it takes to build a really big business. As they say, the secret to an overnight success is that it just takes many, many years. A decade is perhaps a safe average when it comes to trying to estimate how long will it take a founder to launch, scale, and hopefully exit a business. Even super well-funded startups like Uber and Airbnb, they took this long to get to the public markets. I will take a wild guess and say that you probably don't have access to the same billions and billions of venture capital that they did, so it might actually take you a little bit longer. Now, while you're thinking about how to answer that question, let me give you a little more fodder to aid to your contemplation. That actually takes the form of another related question to this one, and it serves as a good starting point. That question is, are you building your own dreams or someone else's? We could also maybe say this differently by saying, are you building something due to an intense personal passion, or are you simply chasing the latest trends in our industry? If the latter, it might actually be much harder to answer that initial 10-year question because who knows if today's trends will be around for 10 years, let alone 24 hours. A really great and recent example of this is all the hype and commotion around Web3. Now, I would love to rant about how much of Web3 is really just weaponized Ponzi schemes and they pretty much have no actual value. However, someone whose opinion I do value said I should try and keep my podcast rants a little bit less pessimistic. They are probably right, and besides, taking a swing at crypto or meta whatever these days, well, it's just too easy. However, I still want to poke at the subject a little bit today with regard to chasing trends and building startups around those. The reason is that I see so many former Web 2.0 guys and gals who are now today's Web 3 experts or just megaphones. Funny how that happens. But I worry a little bit for them because it certainly is a risk to pivot oneself completely around a buzzword of today. I mean, personally, I wouldn't do it, and trust me, I make tons of reckless life decisions. Although still, you know what? I can relate. As someone who built a subscription commerce company at the very peak of that trend many years back. That being said, and from my experience, you don't want to be holding the bag, to use a crypto slang, when an industry trend ultimately collapses. Of course, I could be wrong, and I'm often wrong about many things, but maybe in this case, your decentralized, metaverse-based Dracula coin NFT is actually going to change the world. I mean, who's really to say? Maybe it really doesn't matter if you personally have so much passion for the new shiny thing that you're more than ready to put in a decade figuring out how to make those dreams a big business. In these cases, I can only salute you for both your conviction and your stubbornness. These are, after all, some of the best traits that a founder can have. For everyone else still building on your Web 2.0 or maybe even Web 4 dreams, let's get back to that question at hand. Why do you want to do this for the next 10 years of your life? Is the answer to that question already clear for you? If it is, then great. If not, and to help you further, let me share 2 ways that you might be able to respond to such a question. To start things off with a mic drop, one way to respond to a question could be, I was just so unhappy with the way this was done, I had to build a better way. These type of founders, they get it, and we sometimes call them, quote, mission-driven, unquote. They are absolutely obsessed with their solution or changing an industry. An example of this might be the founder of Zoom, who couldn't build what he wanted to while employed at Cisco. So he left and he did it all on his own, and even in a very crowded market. When you think about it, there was kind of a million reasons why that wouldn't work, but his passion to build his solution, it superseded all those reasons. If you're thinking and nodding that this might be you, then you want to be sure to mention this in investor meetings with all the confidence that you can muster up. Here, it's okay to really show that extreme unhappiness and your desire to do it better, all while you regale them with stories about how you're turning your own dreams into a reality. Another good response to this question is your ability to articulate how you know something that your industry or competitors simply don't. This one is a bit tougher to pull off, but it's worth mentioning too that investors actually do love to learn something in a pitch meeting, even if they sometimes act like they already know everything. If you can teach them something new and really unique, you might find them generally more interested and engaged. Related to this, I often tell founders that investors, well, they don't want to fund you to learn something, such as how to get product market fit or validate a growth channel. This is often expensive and comes with much uncertainty. It is always better to go to them and show them what you have already learned, or back to the answer to this question, what you already know, and how with their money, along with those learnings, you already know what to do. They probably also want to see that what you have learned is big and interesting enough to keep you more than busy for 10 plus years. So I know these examples are maybe a little bit broad, but hopefully they're helping to get your own train of thought going. Every business is of course different, so really there's so many different ways to answer that 10-year question. You could argue that really there's no right or wrong answer. In the end, it'll really come down to how do you answer it, and do either you or an investor actually believe that answer? Hopefully both do. Either way, I might recommend to think more about this question tonight. One thing to look out for is if there is no clear and believable answer, well, maybe there's something else you need to think about. In this case, you might not be building the right business. It's perhaps a tough pill to swallow, but if you can't scan ahead a decade and see yourself working on the same thing you're working on today, you might be working on someone else's dream and not your own. Until next time, sweet dreams, founders.